Hi guys, good afternoon and welcome to this session. My name is Primus Veku and this is Primus Learning, kicking off yet another video here, guys. And so today we want to talk about Argo CD. Argo CD. Argo CD is a neat little tool that you need to have as a DevOps engineer or AWS architect or anyone who automates stuff, guys. You cannot be out there using Kubernetes without knowing about Argo CD. This is a killer little neat app that you need to have in your toolbox, guys. And so in this video, we shall look at a little thing that I've developed and built out here and pushed. And this is what we want to explain to you, right? So let me go to my terminal here or into my VS Code. And so Argo CD, what is Argo CD even all about, right? You may ask. Argo CD is a little tool that helps in your deployment. So it's like another CI/CD pipeline tool, but this tool automatically syncs up your GitHub environment or your GitLab or your repository, right? It automatically syncs it up to your Kubernetes cluster, wherever that cluster is, whether it's on AWS, whether it's on GCP, whether it's a Minikube instance on your local machine, it automatically syncs it up to your GitHub environment and to your code so that once you're doing a deployment, it's automatic. Once you push code to GitHub, it's automatic, guys. So this is what we'll do, explain what is happening here. So this is my repository. You can see this is the repository we just saw on the terminal. And there are three files in here, right? So we have the deployment file. First of all, we have the repository name. We have a directory called dev, and we have two files inside. The first file in here is called deployment.yaml. It's a deployment file, and the kind here, the API version here is apps/v1. The kind is deployment. It's just the metadata. The basic things, the match labels is my app, and the replica sets that we want is two of them. So we're defining two there. And the spec, right, is my app. And this is an image of one of my apps. I think I deployed these apps about 4 years ago. So if you look up here on my Docker Hub account, you should see the app. It's been here for about 4 years. So this was deployed 4 years, guys. I pushed this image out 4 years, and it has been pulled down 310 times. So this is a little image. You can pull it out down as well just to see how it's working, and it's on port 8080 here. So it's running on port 8080. And so this is the first file, right, that we'll be deploying. The second file is a service file. So the kind is service, right? You can see, and basic things, it's deploying on port 80, and the name is HTTP, and the TCP here, the protocol here is TCP, the target port is 80, and it's the type is a load balancer, basic Kubernetes manifest files, right? So once you've had these files, to sync it up with your Kubernetes environment, with your Kubernetes cluster, you would need to define an application file. The kind here is an application, and this API version is the API version for Argo CD apps, right? So you define the API version to be argo project.io/v1 alpha 1. This is how you define it. And then you just give the metadata, you give the spec project is default, and you have to define a source. The source here is your repository. So the repository where your code is pushed out has to be defined. And this is my repository, right? It's the same repository that you see here, and it's the same repository that I will share with you guys, you know, after when you want to do this. I'll put it in the description section of this video, right? So this is the same repository. You can pull it down and try it out yourself. And so you have to define that repository and define the target revision. The target revision is just like the last commit that you're doing, and it should be picking the one that is on main, or you give it head here. It's the same thing. So it will be picking up the last commit, and it will be running on what path? The path it will be running on. So it wants to to affect the deployments that are in this part dev, right? And then the destination is like the API, the API link to the clusters, to the not EMR. I did a video on EMR, so I'm thinking of EMR cluster. This one is the Kubernetes server. So the API, the default API version for Kubernetes or Kubernetes destination is the kubernetes.default.service. This is it right here. And then a name space you want to create. So you want it to create a namespace if there is no namespace. That's why you're defining this namespace here. We have not defined a namespace inside the files, but it will go create this namespace for you. And then you have a policy here, a sync policy. So the sync option is create a namespace true. So if this namespace is not available, it will create a namespace for you. And that's why you have a true here. And then you're asking if it's automated, if it's self-heal. Automated means, hi, after 3 minutes, that's the default thing. After 3 minutes, please sync up again. So go and search, go to this repository and figure out if there is a commit after 3 minutes, please automatically sync up that commit to whatever, or sync up the changes to whatever is currently running on the Kubernetes instance. So this is basically what is happening here, guys. And so all you need to do is, once you've had this ready, you just need to run a deployment on this file. We'll do that. But currently we don't have a Kubernetes cluster. We don't have anything. And so I want to start up or install a, let's see, we'll install a Minikube server here. So I have Choco installed on my system. You need to run this as administrator. So you run it on PowerShell. So I have Choco installed on this laptop. You can install Choco as well. Just Google Choco install on Windows and run on it. So to install a Minikube is just another it's just like an EKS cluster in AWS or an AKS cluster in Azure or a GCP cluster. The Google Kubernetes engine, that's GKE. The GKE in Google is the same thing. Minikube will just give you a cluster, but on your local machine, so it will not cost you anything. So to install that, you need Choco, Choco is basically a package manager for Windows. It's the same thing like Homebrew is for Mac, right? So let's do this. Choco install Minikube. And you should be able to have Minikube running. So it will take a while to install this Minikube. So let's give it some time. So it's accepting the license agreements and all that. So it's approved. Minikube package files installs completed. So it's ready to go. We have Minikube ready to go. So you just need to do Minikube start, and she start Minikube for us. So it's looking at all that, making sure everything is looking good. It may take longer for you. I installed earlier here, so it may take longer for you, but it will just start the Minikube cluster, and that will give us a Kubernetes environment, and we can run our Kubernetes cluster, our Kubernetes commands normally like you would run anything. So the first thing was for you to understand what is happening here, right? While it's running, we can be explaining stuff. The first thing was for you to understand what is happening in this code, which we did. The second thing is that we are installing Minikube. In your case, you may already have a Kubernetes cluster. All you could do to get a Kubernetes cluster up in your AWS environment will be to run a command like this, right? You can use a command like this to get Kubernetes working in your environment. So you just be EKS CTL, you can use EKS CTL. So if you don't have EKS CTL, you can install it, and then you create EKS CTL create cluster. You give it a name, cluster name, Primus Learning, then the region. This is my cluster name for Primus Learning. Then the region, you could use US East, West, and then the node group name, Linux nodes, the node type, T2 micro, and then the nodes, you want to give maybe 2 nodes and so on and so forth. But for this, if you use a T2 micro, it may not work because Argo CD is a bit heavy, so you want to use maybe T3 micros, something like this, to make sure it works. Else you have some errors, guys. So if you're creating it in AWS, you can use this command, run to get your cluster up, and then you simply run your Kubernetes commands. But to do that, of course, you have to have the right access right through your access keys and secret access keys. So you have to install the AWS CLI and configure all things. But that's by the way. What is we are using as an option is installing Minikube, which is what we are doing right here. So see, it's installing. While it's installing, I'll be explaining these other things. So that was the second thing to do. Explain this, then install your cluster. Once you've installed your cluster or your Minikube and it's ready to go, we'll just run a few commands and show you what's happening. So these are the commands we'll run. So after installation, the next thing we'll do is just create a namespace. You see? So once we've installed, we'll create a namespace, install Argo in K8s, right? So in Kubernetes. So we'll just create a simple namespace called Argo CD, and then we'll use this command right here. This is the command to install Argo CD. So it's a command to install Argo CD. So we're just waiting for our Minikube to finish installing, and we can begin running our commands. So yes, it's done creating. Okay, that's neat. It was fast. So it's done creating our Kubernetes environment. And so the next thing we want to run is we want to simply kubectl create namespace, and the namespace name is Argo CD. So this will automatically run on that cluster. So we have a cluster running, right? So you see it is created. The next thing is that we want to install Argo CD. So you just run this command here, install Argo CD. So kubectl apply dash namespace is Argo CD and dash F, and so you give this link here. You install Argo CD. So let's get our installation going. You see it's installing. It's the process of installing. It's very fast. It creates a lot of things, and that's why I said it's a little bit heavy, right? So you don't need to, So after that, you can see how it's creating. You can use kubectl get port. Kubectl get ports to see the number of ports that are currently running. It should still be creating. So then remember the names. You have to define the namespace because we created a namespace for this. When you use kubectl get ports directly without defining the namespace, it will go to the default namespace and will not see anything running on it. So what you want to do is kubectl get ports -n Argo CD. N stands for the namespace, is the option for the namespace, and Argo CD is the namespace name. So you do that, you see that the status is on creating on most of these ports, right? So it's still creating. So give it a moment, you still run again, and you see how it will be working. So it's still creating. Give it a few more moments. Let's run that. Run that again and see what's happening here. All right, one port is already running, yay. So it's getting real here, and the second one is running. So you see 1, 2, these are running. Let's do that again. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 are already running. So almost ready. We're almost ready, right? Port initiation, almost ready. So basically all of them are almost running. I think all of them are almost running. So after that, you want to do a port forward. You want to port forward so that you can see the application. You can expose the application on port 8080 here, right? So want to expose Argo CD, want to log into Argo CD. To do that, let's run this from here, right? Because the session has to be continuously running. So want to do that here. So we just paste this. Oh, okay. we picked it up wrongly. So let's just do that. Port forwarding. I want to forward it to that port. Oh, no, I still missed it by one. All right. So it's port forwarding to port 8080. So if you go to your terminal now, after running that command, if you go to your terminal, localhost, and type in localhost port 8080, you see that's the port we are forwarding to. You should see a screen like this. This is the Argo CD screen that is coming up. Just advance, it's safe. You know that is an application that you are exposing. And so you go to it and it should take you to an Argo CD dashboard. The dashboard would look like this. The default username for Argo CD is admin, but to get the password, you need to run a command to get that password. And so let's see the command to get a password. This is the command to get a password down here. You have to also decode you have to decode it as well. And that's why we're using this command. You have to decode the password. That's why we use the base 64 decoder to be able to do that. And run that on a terminal like this, right? Run that on a terminal, on a git bash terminal, is what I mean. So bring up git bash, and run that on it. So let's just paste and run. You want to decode and get the password. So this is the password we've gotten. Make sure you copy the password correctly, else it will not give you the desired. So I will just put the password here and remove those spaces from there. Okay, and then I'll carry it over to my screen here, to my Argo CD screen. And that is it. So I'll sign in. Yay, we have an Argo CD environment. Currently, there is no application running here, right? No application is running on Argo CD. So once you've created your thing, you have your GitHub repository and it is here, you've pushed it out already. Make sure the GitHub repository, the code is committed to the repository, is available, and you've pointed the path to your file here, right? To this application file. All you need to do now is run that application file. So you need to be in this path right here. So what I would do is I'll go down one step to be in that path. ls, you want to see your application file here. And that is the application file you want to run. Once you run this, it will automatically sync with your repository, because why? We have defined our repository here, right, as the source repository, where Argo CD would do its magic. So what we want to do is kubectl apply. So we want to apply -f, and the file name is application.yaml, right? And that's it. Once you create this, once you do this, you apply and create this this service, this application service here. So you've created it. This is it created. Simply go back to your terminal and see the magic happen. So go back to your terminal and go to Argo CD and refresh. You should see an application begin to create here. So let's just refresh, give it a moment. You should see an application appear. Voila, here is an application that has appeared. It is already synced to your GitHub environment. And you see, you have a lot of visibility into your application already, and it's pointing you to this. So if you open that up, you should see that these are the various things that you defined. My app Argo application, that's the name you gave it, and then your service is my app, your deployment. So you see this, your deployment name. So your deployment is my app, your service is my app service, right? So and then the selector here is my app. So you see all these names, exactly what you defined. My app service, my app, and then these are the endpoints that it's creating, and all of these, all you need to do is give it a correct image, and it will push the image out correctly for you. This is the image. This is the app, or the port rather, it's creating for you, and all of that syncing up. picking up the application and deploying it for you automatically. If you do a change here, so for instance, instead of version 4 that I have there, instead of version 4 that I have in my deployment, if I decide to do version 3 rather that I have, if I decide to do version 4 and save, and then you push your code to GitHub, git status, I see there's a change in one file, okay, in 3 files, then git, let's do git add dot, so you want to add all the files in that directory, and then git commit -m, you give it a message modified app version, maybe just give something like that. Git push, so you want to push the changes to your repository. So we're pushing all our changes out. Something failed, previous learning Argos, main fetch. It looks like there was something that we needed to fetch first. So let's do git pull and get everything ready. And then we make sure that the change that we affected is here. And then we git status again. Everything is ready, git push. I think it should work now. All right, so you've done your push out. Your application should detect that there is something that is not working. How will it do that? After 3 minutes, because it syncs automatically after 3 minutes. If you want it to automatically get it, all you need to do is hit refresh here. Once you refresh, it automatically begins to sync. You see this out of sync because the current one is different. You see, it's started running new ports. The current one was the old one. You just pushed out a change to GitHub. And so it automatically noticed that there was something. So it was out of sync. And then it's picked up the head, which is the recent, like the recent commit that you made, right? This is the head, which is the recent commit that you made, and it's pushed it out, deployed, and you see your thing is need here. New apps coming, new ports coming up to replace the old ones. So if you go back to your app, you should see this as the recent change, the recent push that you did, right? The recent commit that you did. And where is the commit number? We'll refresh this. That's 6 minutes ago, or not, 8 minutes ago, I think. And this is it, 663A something something. That's the recent head, right? And that's exactly what you got here, 663A. Exactly what you got, guys. So this is the power of Argo CD. It automatically syncs up your GitHub repository to your Kubernetes cluster and deployments, and you don't have to go over the hustle of, creating GitHub actions. You see, I don't have any GitHub actions here, but I am doing changes and pushing it out smoothly, and the thing is just beautiful. So guys, play around with this. I'll put this down. I'll put this on the description section of the video so that you can play around and push out this thing, try out. You can try it out with Minikube. You can try it out on EKS clusters and so on and so forth, guys. So this is really neat. You can even visualize this with other tools, right? You can use other tools to visualize this, like kubectl. No, not kubectl. What's that neat little tool again? K9s. K9, I have a K9s environment, I think. Let's see if it will discover this Minikube. Well, this is just a trial. Yep, it discovers Minikube, right? This is my K9s. It's discovered my Minikube environment. You can visualize it with it. I made a video on this one. If you want to see what it's all about, you can watch that video and just see what K9s is all about. It's a neat little tool that you can use for your workloads. All right, guys, that's it from me. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to comment and let us know what you think, right? This video is just to show you how Argo CD works and that it's an option that you can use. And also you can use it together with your other CI/CD pipeline tools like GitHub Actions. So thanks for watching, and see you again in our next video. Bye-bye.